Welcome back, everyone, and thank you for coming back. So, our next presenters are from UVA, University of Virginia. I must say that I'm a proud dad of a son that graduated from UVA, and it is a great university. I'd like to introduce our two speakers today. Forrest has led teams in software and data engineering for over 20 years with varying focuses on project, product, platform, and portfolio management. He's held a PMP since 2005 and began using and promoting agile technologies in 2008. His career spans work in internet, retail, reverse logistics, clinical research, scholarly publishing, and now higher ed. Always as a key translator between business executives and engineering teams. And VJ, with close to a decade of work experience as a quality assurance engineer, lead in software development and data warehousing, VJ is involved in the quality engineering discipline and its applications. With a proven record of leading and managing people ranging from small to medium groups, VJ is considered a resourceful team player and colleague. VJ is a Six Sigma Green Belt and project management certified professionals. We greatly appreciate you participating, and we will turn this over to you.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you for that introduction. So good morning and good afternoon to one and all across time zones. Welcome to our presentation on ensuring data trustworthiness while building data products. Considering the conference title, it was only appropriate for us to include the word trust in our title. My name is Mohan Vijay Adusumilli, and I'm the Enterprise Testing Lead here at University of Virginia. I've been here at UVA for almost 8 years now. I've been part of many multi-year implementations, projects, as well as daily operations. So let's go ahead and get started. Here is a quick agenda on how the how the presentation is organized. First, we have a quick intro by Forrest, our Director of Data Operations. Then we have an obvious plug about our institution. Then I'll give you detail and talk about what led to the creation of data warehouse. After that, we'll delve into the importance of data quality and reliability. We will also discuss our governance strategy and approach on handling these data requests. And finally, we'll touch upon our next steps as an institution. Over to you, Forrest.
All right, great. Thanks, Vijay. I think the main point I want to just stress about my prior experiences is just the variety of industries I've worked in and the types of roles I've been in terms of leading different teams. Really a lot of software development before switching over to more of the data warehousing reporting side in the last 10 or 15 years. But I think it's very important to have someone on your team, that may be you or maybe someone else, but someone who can speak to the engineers and answer their questions about what is desired, what the outcome is, and also be able to speak with the business to describe the nuances of what they're trying to achieve, because sometimes people are asking for something that is hard or perhaps impossible given the applications and data that's available. Great. So as for our warehouse, I joined UVA about 8 years ago as part of a project to overhaul our managerial reports. This is really about finance reporting, HR student reporting that are common across all of the schools. Vijay, I'll tell you a little bit more about how big and distributed the university is, but having a central team take over and be accountable for the data quality, for reporting, for the bulk of stuff was really important. And we were both part of that effort. Once we were done with the initial phase of that, we got asked to work on some new implementations, both Workday HR and Workday Finance, which are somewhat different than the relational databases we'd worked with. We also started supporting groups over in the UVA Medical Center. So the warehouse we have covers about 30,000 employees and finance for all of the schools and all that. And over the last 8 years, I think the organization finally realized that we weren't just a bunch of guys here running projects, that we were actually a critical part of their infrastructure. So about a year and a half ago, the ITS organization at UVA moved us to report to them rather to a project team. So it's nice to see the evolution of the warehouse not only include the original requirements, but also the understanding that moving data, curating data, validating data, creating data products is a critical business function that deserves its own place in the organization. So in terms of data validation, I came to this job with a lot of experience in software development, and we used tools like Selenium and other automated stuff to make sure that we did testing before we pushed anything to production. The person who was managing our project was not an expert in data warehousing, was not really aware of the different challenges that our team faced in terms of being able to validate the amount of data that was passing through the system. I'm sure it's fairly trivial to some of you, but millions, tens of millions of rows, that kind of stuff. The job I had come from, we're pulling millions of rows a night, so it's kind of used to pulling a lot of data and making sure that it was accurate and all present. So once VJ came on and we started talking about the scope of the project, we decided it would be good to bring that sort of methodology to the work we were doing for the warehouse. And in order to do that, we would need a tool that was specifically focused on validating data effectively and efficiently. VJ went out to the market, researched some alternatives, and came back with a recommendation to use DataGap's ETL Validator product. I want to be clear, we can't endorse anything. We can't say that it's the best thing in the world. We can just tell you that we've used it effectively for 8 years and are happy to be here today. So we were able to convince our management that this was an essential function for a data warehouse and got the funding secured to do that. And we have to great effect. And I think with that, let's have the engineer talk rather than the manager, because I assume most of you will actually want to hear the details of this stuff. So Vijay, take it away.
Thank you, Forrest. Thanks for setting the stage there. Here are a few quick facts about UVA before we jump into the meat of the presentation. UVA, it's a public university located in Charlottesville, Central Virginia. It was founded in 1819. It's a 2-century-old institution founded by Thomas Jefferson, the founding father and third president of the United States. Today, UVA is a top-ranked institution that offers world-class education in its 12 schools, so often referred as a public Ivy as well, due to its exceptional academic programs. The university has recently introduced a new school for data science, which is quickly gaining popularity. University also contains University of Virginia Health System with several nationally ranked specialties. It is voted as the #1 hospital in the state of Virginia by Newsweek just this month. The university's annual budget is about $5.4 billion, with about 60% allocated to the health system and 40% to the academic division. And university in turn generates about $6 billion in annual economic activity in the state of Virginia. Has a student body of about 17,000 undergraduate students, and we also serve 8,000 undergraduate and PhD students as well, all with approximately 10,000 academic faculty and staff members. So let's switch gears and talk about what led to the creation of data warehouse here at UVA. Oracle E-Business Suite was the ERP system and the system of record from 2009 here at UVA. And we have been using Oracle's Discoverer, its BI platform, for our reporting needs, which was run on a day-old operational data store, ODS as we call it. As the years went on, the need for customized ad hoc reporting as well as slicing and dicing operations grew. The performance of Discoverer began to degrade. And as Forrest alluded to earlier, managerial reporting project was then launched to revamp the reporting and analytics platform here at the university. It resulted in the creation of Data Warehouse, which is based on Oracle, and Click product serving as our reporting layer. And the major milestones in our warehouse journey are as follows. In August of 2016, finance was the first subject area that was modeled, transformed, and brought over into the warehouse. During this effort and after market study, we have procured ETL Validator application from DataGap's company. This tool proved to be very useful and saved us countless man hours in our validation efforts. With its ease of use, repeatability was the main thing for us, and it's also its benchmarking ability. In the following years, I think in 2018, mid 2018, we have brought data from several various modules in our student information system, and Workday HR or human capital management was our first foray into cloud as an institution. The new ERP system and the associated warehouse went live in January of 2019. But with this new ERP system also came new set of challenges. Unlike the previous relational database systems we were dealing with, either it's Oracle EBS or PeopleSoft Sales, Workday is based on an object-based columnar store, and it might allow multiple values to be stored in some fields. For example, computing ID or even employee ID is not necessarily constrained to be unique in Workday, which anyone would expect to be in any other relational system. So this presented us additional challenges in ensuring data availability, data quality, and data accuracy. Right now, our warehousing team daily checks for any of such issues, and we alert HR support team, our upstream systems, to avoid any disruptions to other integrations as well as downstream systems. Soon after Workday HCM implementation, university on the academic side have also moved away from Oracle EBS and moved on to Workday Finance as our finance ERP system. Although we have had some experience by this point with onboarding Workday HCM, Workday Finance still presented its own set of challenges with the huge size, volume, and several other Workday limitations to pull data out of Workday. With its 12 schools and just by its inherent nature, UVA is a highly decentralized institution. While we pull data from all major ERP systems and several other smaller systems, there is still a growing need from users to enrich this data with their own and build out reporting models specific to their needs. So we already have the central reporting that is already available on the platform. And also we started to believe as an institution that data sharing is an operational responsibility. And to support this cause and the user base, we've started out with building data products. Data product, as DJ Patil, our former US chief data scientist, put it, is a product that facilitates progress towards an end goal for the user through the use of data. It need not be a be-all, end-all situation. As long as it helps the user to make the progress towards what they're aiming for, that's a data product. Provisioning data for COVID dashboard. I'm sure we've all been involved in some form or fashion in the last 4 years. Is an example of data product. For us at UVA, we were tasked with providing a common denominator to accurately track and report on COVID cases as well as vaccination. No matter the number of affiliations you have at the university, you could be a staff and a student, employee and a physician and whatnot. So no matter the number of ties you have with the institution, we always wanted to have one record per person so that we can accurately report the COVID prevalence in our community. Budget forecasting for arts and science is one such example. More recently, we have also partnered with another school to report on tenure track professorship, academic appointments, and so on. We are currently in a collaboration with our newly introduced School of Data Science to model and calculate the anticipated financial aid need for the upcoming years. So for us at UVA, we strive to keep UVA affordable and accessible for everyone by meeting every last single dollar of a demonstrated financial need for undergraduate student. This is all done through a program called Access UVA. And for this effort, it meant that we need to pull data from several sources, not just internal, but also several external sources. It was cost of attendance, and that's not common across institution. It differs from term to term, school to school, course to course. We also needed to bring in data from state budgets. We also need to bring in proposed tuition increases and all such. We need to combine them in such a way that it's useful for our colleagues at School of Data Science, for the researchers to build data models and effectively or efficiently calculate the financial need that's required for the upcoming years. This is a very valuable collaboration for us that we are currently working on. And as we move towards data enablement and move on from operational reporting to more of strategic reporting and analytics, like we are doing with data science, it is very crucial for all members of the organization to understand and be able to work with data fluently in context to generate usable insights. This is not just limited to the data experts anymore, but everyone in the organization should have a business understanding of the data as well as knowledge on the data storage, data structures, integrity, and quality. And to achieve this, we are partnering with several departments and units across our institution to upskill staff and also implementing a data cataloging tool to provide information and metadata on the data structures, storage, and models. Both building data products and enabling data means we also need to have a robust data governance model. For us, data governance is a confluence of people, policies, and technology to ensure the safe, effective, efficient use of quality data, all while adhering to the organizational standards that have been set. And as we collaborate with different schools and units, we see different levels of data owners' approvals, signed memorandum of understandings, as needed, depending on the use case, the method of provisioning of data, which we'll touch upon in the next slide or two, and of course, the sensitivity of data itself. As we talked about data products, data quality, data fluency, the underlying theme or subtext has always been about the availability of quality data. Even Dave and Raj in the earlier presentations talked about the importance of having quality data and what would result from having bad data or not the right data. So turning it a bit around, let's talk about how we build that data trust here. So to ensure our users are getting vetted and validated data, we test for the things that are mentioned here. On the technical side, we check for data completeness, data accuracy, data transformation, quality, performance, as well as scalability. As noted earlier, we have procured ETL Validator back in 2016 and have been avid user of the application since. This helped us in not only validating the basic aspects of ETL testing and data warehousing like record counts and aggregations, but allowed us to perform cell-level content validation. So, and with the huge volumes we deal with and fairly frequent enhancement and enrichment requests, it has now become crucial for us to automate our testing. We now have about 150 test cases running in our production environment daily. That will alert us on the data health and accuracy, also if there are any data issues identified, so that we can be proactive in addressing the issues before it reaches users. Validating that the data is transformed correctly based on business rules can also be a complex part of testing an ETL application, especially when there is a significant transformation logic involved. To that end, we employ several capabilities of ETL Validator, such as data profiling, data rules, metadata compare, and so on, to achieve this level of comfort in testing the data transformation. And As we move to cloud-based ERP systems, the component tests within the tool have been really helpful. We've integrated Python scripting and XMLs into our arsenal now, and component test cases have been really useful there to validate our data pipelines there. And as we expand our services in building data products and reaching out to other users and communities, our testing needs have also evolved over time. Users always need faster access to quality data, which means the testing application or the platform should be extensible, should have relatively good ease of use, and reusability is also one more big thing as we move to ERP systems. And consistent with our aim and our road plan, we also need to have a web-based reporting ability. So to address these and to meet all these needs, we have recently migrated from ETL Validator to DataGap's newer offering, DataOps Suite, which is based on Apache Spark Engine. While there were certainly challenges with migration, as one would expect with any migration, particularly if it involves an underlying architectural change, we've always had superlative support from the DataGap's team. We now have lots of reusable Python code snippets all within the application, and this made engineering our Workday related data flows so much easier. This is all in to say that trust is a gradual process. Trust is certainly not gained overnight, and there is no magic bullet for this. So all the validations and the intentional steps we have taken to ensure accuracy, which are done behind the scenes, means our users will have access to timely, consistent, relevant, connected, and most importantly, trusted data. And when I say timely, I mean having the data set refreshed, updated as per the user or business requirement, consistent across structures, measures, definitions, which are standardized and understood, relevant as in deliverables created fit for purpose at the expected level of granularity, and by connected with the right links and relationships between structures that will enable our users to perform the analytical reporting and generate insights as needed, all in order to meet their functional needs. And as we continue to onboard and function as a team on the new DataOps platform, we plan to extend our validation services to end user target systems. We are transitioning from, as Forrest talked about, more from a project-based team to service-oriented. We are transitioning from EDW to more of a data hub model. So now let's shift our focus and discuss on how we handle these ever-increasing data requests. I'd like to remind you that we have a central reporting and analytics team called University Business Intelligence, short for UBI. They are our main data customer, and they would need access to huge volumes, millions of records for curated and structured data, as well as historical information, which might not be available in the source system anymore. But in addition to UBI, to serve our more technically savvy users and departments, we have created school or unit-specific schemas within our warehouse. And we provision secure access to these new schemas using service accounts and named users, which are then managed via database roles and grants. These business units may maintain their own data marts and use our data to enrich their data marts, models, reporting, and applications. Think School of Medicine, Custom Apps, these are two good examples who have their own specific schemas within the warehouse. Leveraging our transition to ITS, we are now focused on creating and extending these repeatable patterns for provisioning validated data to the full spectrum of schools, units, BI teams, data marts, all across the institution. We also design, curate, and generate targeted flat file extracts for smaller schools and departments which might not have a robust IT shop or skilled personnel to assist with those things. And we also provide data to our Dell Boomi team, which is our iPaaS platform within the university with API management for its on-prem or in-cloud applications and integrations. Furthermore, we also feed data to several smaller systems, could be cloud, could be on-prem. Blue is one such system, which is a cloud-based instructor and course evaluation system used by our students. And we feed the course instructor and student data into that application. So next steps for us as an institution are mentioned here. Not just for our institution, but for any organization or any company that deals with data, reliable reporting and analytics have become mission critical. It's not just for operational efficiency anymore, but also for informed decision making. And as we make progress towards our UVA's 2030 goal of great and good strategic plan, it's particularly important for us to keep reporting and analytics front and center. And for that, obviously, we would need quality data like we talked about. But also, I wanted to talk about the roadmap that we are currently upon. So in addition to what we have already worked on or currently working with, we have the following next steps here. For smaller data sets where it might make sense for users to publish their data into the warehouse and join with the data we have, we intend to build a lightweight data import application in collaboration with our custom apps team. And in the upcoming quarter, we intend to report more broadly upon the health and known data issues within our EDW using the web reporting functionality of the new DataOps platform. And as we strive for data-informed culture, we also aim to empower users to come in, define business rules, and verify the business rules all within the DataOps platform. As our data enablement project matures, our goal is to expand our data validation to the target systems as well. The next one is data culture. It's a big one. And establishing analytics or a data-informed culture requires continuous buy-in and involvement from all stakeholders, and not just ideas or analytics. So for this, having a robust governance model can certainly be of great help. And last but not the least, being in higher ed space, we may not always be the first to employ or adopt the newest of technologies out there, but we always remain willing, open, and be able to share knowledge across our peer institutions, lessons learned, knowledge gained during implementations, and all that. So right now, we are currently exploring the potential benefits of migrating EDW to cloud to determine whether and when such a move would benefit the organization, and as a result, what additional services we could provide as a team for the university. And I think that's a wrap for us. Thank you all for joining us. We are ready to take any questions you might have.
Hi.
The building we see on the right here, sorry, Dave, I just wanted to, one interesting tidbit. The building we see on the right here, that's the Rotunda building. That's actually designed by Thomas Jefferson, the man himself. And it is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. So if you're ever in Central Virginia or on the East Coast, it's a good place to visit and see.
Well, Charlottesville is certainly pretty city and stuff. It's really well done. And thank you so much for the presentation and accepting our invitation. I got a lot out of that. Hey, one of the questions I had is, can you give us an example of a data product and how it's used? And do you also use data contracts in with data products?
So let me answer that one first, and then I'll delve a little bit into the products themselves. So we're not at the point yet of establishing the data contracts. I think that's certainly on the horizon. Right now, the typical agreement is signed as a memorandum of understanding between the various different departments and tends to cover more about the use of the data and less about the specific qualities and aspects of the data itself. But as we mature here, I certainly see that. I think my take on data products is really anything that's fit for purpose to serve a need with data. So it might be a table, it might be a view, it might be a whole schema, it might be an algorithm, it could be a KPI. I think Vijay gave a great example during the talk where we needed a dashboard that would have would keep us from double counting people during COVID. So we have some people who are just students and some people who are just employees, and then a huge bucket of people who are both. Either, I work here and I'm taking a class on the side, or I'm a full-time student who has a part-time job. And in order to avoid double counting them in any of the dashboard reporting, we created a product which was a hyper-normalized view that had one row per person and then about 75 flags, depending on which way you wanted to slice and dice it. So part of our job, I think sometimes is as consultants, and we have to understand what the business requirement is and then translate that into a structure or service that meets that need. And sometimes the business can't articulate how we're supposed to do that, right? That's the hard part of this job, is taking a business requirement and turning it into something that you physically manifest inside of the warehouse or a BI tool or something. But really, I think if you just think of a data product as any use of data in any form to solve a business question, it always sounds sort of abstract to me, but it's literally everything we do all the time, every day. And we're just trying to think of new ways to do it.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. You mentioned earlier that that your management began to recognize the need for the data testing. And can you tell us how that evolved, how that happened? Because sometimes that's a hard thing for people to wrap their head around.
Yeah, Vijay, you're the lead on this. You want to take it?
Yeah. So, with my background and coming from application development, and like you talked about, Dave, people don't necessarily think about the quality in data warehousing space as much as they think about in a software or application development. But with Forrest's prior experience spanning across various industries and my application development experience, we quickly realized that there is an absolute need for us to have an automated testing platform for us to effectively and cover the wide aspects of data related fields and functionalities we wanted to test. So we have done a market study. We have done several proof of concepts, and I think a couple of them ended up to be the final lists. And we have ultimately went with ETL Validator. But educating users and making them realize the importance of testing in data warehousing space and how it ultimately affects the decisions that are taken using the data that is being reported on. So that was the biggest piece of the puzzle for us.
Yeah, and I think just to pat ourselves on the back here, being able to go live with warehouses for Workday HR and Workday Finance at project launch is part of what made those projects successful. So when you switch an ERP system, there's usually chaos around the reporting inside of the system. And we were sitting in the background with a bunch of reports that our central BI team had written saying, hey, guys, use this stuff to validate what you're seeing, because this is what we see. And we were able to help reconcile a number of issues with the application in that first month. And when we got to the first month close, everything was solid. But not having our validation in place would have made that significantly harder.
Yeah, that's interesting. We have a question sort of around that. And it's as you move from EBS to Workday, how difficult was it to convert the validations and ETL tests, given that you don't have database access anymore for writing queries on the source?
Yeah, that was tough. And it's particularly challenging because in the relational world, we were able to really do apples to apples against the data in the source system and what we had in the warehouse. It's very straightforward to do that. And occasionally you see timing issues. With Oracle, this batch stuff running in the background all the time. but we get it within a tolerance that we felt comfortable with. With Workday, it proved very hard to figure out how to test something because the same strategy we're using to extract the data into the warehouse is the method we have to use for the testing. So you have to write custom reports in Workday to get data out effectively. I know they have APIs, but the RAS, reporting as a service mechanism, is the best mechanism we've found to extract data from Workday. We also have to use RAS reports to run the validations. So this was a lot of Vijay and I sort of talking through how are we going to do this, because we're basically doing the same thing twice and saying, yeah, we got the same answer twice. So maybe you have a more clear answer to how you're handling that nuance, but that is certainly the challenge.
Yes, also it was a good bit of learning curve moving away from relational systems, and like what is talked about, we have started using RAS, reporting as a service, source as a source, and we have brought Python into the picture. We now run Python scripts all within DataOps application, but in ETL Validator, we were running a separate Python environment that calls out Workday reports and pulls the data as a form of XML or a CSV, and then we import that into the ETL Validator work schema, then try and compare it against what we have in the warehouse. And to add on to the point of comparing apples to apples, we have built out a separate set of reports for pulling data into the warehouse. But at the same time, functional team have built out similar, if not same, reports for users who might need live data or the transactions that were entered that business day. So we've used that as a starting point to build out validation reports. So now we have two sets of reports, one for data extraction into the warehouse, similarly, or might use a different data source or business object, but still try and get that same data out and use that in comparison.
Yeah. Okay. So you had to sort of rethink the overall strategy, but you worked through it and figured it out. So I had a question. You were talking about, and I like this quote: "Trust is a gradual process." I guess the ancillary to that is lack of trust is immediate. And what's your experience with that?
So, and I think this is really critical into what I was mentioning earlier. When we built the first real warehouse here, it's kind of late in the game, right? Like I was getting interviewed in 2014 to take this position, and a little bit shocked that there wasn't like a real data warehouse, and they were just sort of copying production and running reports. So we were able to very early on demonstrate our expertise and knowledge around data modeling, data architecture, fact dimension style data warehousing, all the stuff that's probably bread and butter to a lot of people on this call. But going out and explaining that to business people as part of that original project, and then creating the structures, putting the validation in place, and demonstrating the quality of the data, I think gave us the legitimacy then to go in when the next project started and said, guys, you can't wait until this thing's live. You need to work with us now, and managed to do that well as well. So I think, you establish your credibility by educating the people in your business who don't understand what you're doing to the level that they want to understand, knowing when to stop educating them because they no longer have any interest and their eyes have glazed over. And then just doing a good job. So I think a lot of it just boils down to that. A lot of people in our space, I think one of the bigger challenges is that we understand technical details and the nuances of data and things like data integrity that they've just never even considered, and they're not part of their daily life. So we have to find a way to break down these concepts into a digestible story that we can tell them. And then once they understand it, I think that's where you get the trust. When I talk through what it is we do, to a business person and explain how we're doing it, they get more comfortable. And the proof's in the pudding. The finance team was coming to us in July of last year to help validate what was in the system, because they'd written a bunch of routines to get data into the system, but once it was there, they couldn't tell if it was in the right place. We'd gone through that exercise of mapping out sort of where it was supposed to land and what it was supposed to look like. And they could come to us to get answers to that. And if you can provide that sort of service, it goes a very long way to generating trust.
Yeah, and I think it's that repetitive conversations, right? And showing when things do go wrong. If you find the problem before they do, trust goes way up as well. That
Trust goes up, friendship. Yeah.
Hey, we're all friends, right?
That's right.
And so I'm curious, and maybe this is directed at you, Forrest, more so, is you've worked in multiple industries and stuff. What were the challenges and what were the similarities between what were you doing in corporate America and now what you're doing in academia?
Yeah, so the first thing I'll say is that working in academia is a pleasure after having multiple jobs in different private industries. This environment is everything that's intended in the term collegial, right? Like we can call up another university and say, hey, we're seeing this problem. How'd you guys fix it? And they'll get on a call with us for an hour and walk us through it. You're not going to see that in business, right? So that's the upside. Sort of the challenges we face are that there's less direct authority. There's, in any like regular business, somebody with a high enough title can walk in the room and say, hey, you knuckleheads, go do this, right? In higher ed, it's always, hey, did we bring in so-and-so to make sure we got their opinion and what they think about this, even if it's not normally something we'd ask them, but shouldn't we bring them in and talk about it, right? So it gets to be a very drawn out proposition, and it's rare that we just get the authority to go do something and tell people to do it, right? So this type of organization requires a lot of persuasive skills and diplomacy. There's also an incredibly varying scope of skill sets across the schools and units. So Vijay mentioned we have 12 schools. We have probably 10 or so other major business units. And some of those schools and units have very sophisticated teams doing BI and analytics, and they're really happy to engage with us at a very deep technical level. Others of them, the IT person is juggling 7 different hats at once and occasionally has to do some reporting stuff. And gee, can you just give me a CSV file, right? So it's that variability in terms of what to expect from the people that we're working with that can be really challenging. I think that's, I don't, Vijay, you probably have one to add. That's certainly the one I see.
I think that pretty much covers it for us.
Yeah, in some ways, data is data, right? But the use of that data, and you're talking about student information, but you still have finance, you still have all these other things that are required to run a corporation or university, and so I was sort of curious about.
Yeah. I mean, certainly a lot of regulations and legislation and all sorts of stuff. So one thing I will say that we championed for and fought early and have maintained is a desire not to store any PII in the warehouse. So we have no social security numbers, no patient information, no credit card information. And it gives us a little bit of luxury in terms of how constricted our environment is and how many controls we have to have in place. Obviously, nobody wants to release a bunch of data accidentally, and our environment is very secure and very well segmented network-wise and all of that. But not having to live to the legal requirements around PII has made it a little bit easier, because I worked in that world before, and it's just that many more controls and that much more that you have to be vigilant about when you build out your architecture.
Yeah. And, maybe at some point you have to put that information back together, right? So, because there are things you do need to know about this student, this person, this payment, and so on. So I guess that's a unique challenge as well.
Actually, it's interesting. So if this is a space or a problem that you have to solve, I mean, and we have this issue right now in our collaboration with data science and the Provost's office, Student Financial Services. We need to share enough attributes of the students that they can do the analysis for the financial aid need, but we can't have anybody be able to identify any of the students. So one of the great things that every warehouse person has in their back pocket is whatever their dimensional and fact ID numbers are. You've got some sort of durable key there that's completely unrelated to the source system. So when we pass data over to our colleagues in data science, instead of passing a student ID or some other identifier, we pass them the warehouse ETL history ID key, which is like a dimensional ID or a fact ID. But it's basically just a row number. But that row number then is solid gold over there because they can use it to segment out each individual and still not be able to see anything meaningful about them.
Okay, that's interesting. I think we're just ran out of time. Thank you so much for the presentations and accepting our invitation to present. Got a lot out of the presentation. And with that, we'll conclude our